too hot. Succulent! Yeah, babe, let's go!
But the grass isn't done.
Hey guys, I've got Succulent on the table here. Let me show you what it looks like. This is a gardening themed, resource gathering, tile laying, card order completing type game. So let me explain how it works. You're gonna make sure that every player has one of these greenhouse boards, a number of flowers, a small flower bed, a medium flower bed, and a token matching the color that their flowers are. After you've made sure you've given everybody that, you'll check the greenhouse boards and you'll look at the letter here in the bottom right corner, and whoever's closest to A is the first player, and that player will get to go first. What you're going to do on your turn is you're going to take one of two actions and then a possible optional third action. The first of two actions that you can take is to place one of your flower beds. To do that, you're going to take one of your flowers and you're going to put it in the center hole, the circle hole of your flower bed, and you will place it somewhere on this board. Now, there are different colors of flowers on this board. Some of them also have water droplets. So let me explain what happens when you place a flower bed on any of these flowers. So if I placed right there, I would gain flower petals of the two colors that I covered up, in this case, orange and green. And those flower petals are up there at the top in the different colors. I know this particular color looks like brown. It's actually supposed to be black. So just keep that in mind. And that's essentially how that works. I'm covering up these flowers to get those different types of flower petals. Now, if instead I placed my flower bed on any space that had a water droplet, so let's just say that I placed right there, covering up that green and black, well, I would still get those flower petals, but I would also gain one of these small water droplets. And I'll explain what these water droplets do in a minute. But they're very important. And so that's one of the actions you can do. The second action you can do, let's go over here to the pink player, is they can take their token and place it on any one of these cards that doesn't already have a token on it. And so let's just say that we're going to place on this card, and you would place it on the box in the bottom right corner. Now when you do that, you gain these flower beds listed on the card. And so in this case, it would be 2 medium flower beds. And you would just add that to your supply of flower beds. Now, it's important that you place your token on cards that you gain the type of flower beds that you need, but also on cards that you think that you're going to complete or that you think another player is going to complete. So let's talk about completing cards, because that is the third optional action you can do on your turn. And so to complete a card, you need to be able to provide the flower petals listed at the top of the card. So for instance, this one is 2 purples and a black. And if you had gained 2 purples and black or brown flower petals, you'd be able to turn those in exchange for this card. And you would gain the victory points listed here. So anything in a green thumbprint gives you victory points. Some of them also provide you an additional bonus. So for instance, this card here gives you a green flower petal. That one gives you a orange flower petal. Some of them give you additional flower beds. This one gives you a flower bed. This particular card says that you get to put a small flower bed anywhere out on the board. So there is a little bit of iconography in this game. You do need to be mindful of that with your non-gamer friends. However, most of the cards are listed on the back of the rule book, and so that is an easy reference guide to help you know that. Now, why you want to put your token on the cards that you think that you'll complete or someone else will complete is because whenever you complete an order card that has a token on it, then whoever's token that is will gain a large water droplet. Now, let's go over what these water droplets are good for. So again, there's the small and the large. The small water droplets, they both essentially work the same way, but you're going to put them on your greenhouse board. on these water droplet spaces. And when you've completely filled up all the spaces in one color of flower, you can exchange all of your small water droplets in that section for one of the flower petals of that color. So this one would give me a black one. The difference with the large water droplets is that wherever I put them, they stay there. I don't have to turn those in. I only have to turn in the small ones. And so the large ones are more valuable because they remain and you get to use them over and over again. The other thing, and I have to zoom in and show you guys this, that these large water droplets do, is they give you victory points at the end of the game so long as they're on one of the spaces with one of these green numbers here. So for instance, this would give me 3 victory points at the end of the game. And so large water droplets are very, very valuable. So those are the actions that you're going to be taking back and forth, back and forth. A couple of other things on this board up here. Whenever a player covers the last water droplet on a tile, so let's pretend that this one was already covered and then somebody placed one here. Once you've done that, then the player who placed that last tile would get to flip over a new garden tile, again following the arrow in the direction that you flip. And that's how the board expands throughout the course of the game. Other things to note, whenever you've placed a flower bed where the flower touches another flower, and it doesn't matter if it's your own or someone else, but whoever's flower that is that's touching the newly placed flower, that player would gain a small water droplet. And so in this case, the blue player would have given themselves a small water droplet. But if the pink player were to place right here, then the blue player would gain a small water droplet because the pink player placed right next to them. So there is a little bit of thinking as far as where you want to place your flower beds, because not only do you want to get the flower petals that you want to complete your orders, but you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're helping your opponents. So there's something to think about there, and that does require a deeper level of thinking that maybe some non-gamers aren't used to, and so you want to really explain that to them and help them understand that that's a big component in this game. So this continues on until one player runs out of flowers or until they've filled a certain number of order cards depending upon the number of players in the game. And then once you've done that, once somebody has done that, you'll finish out that round. You'll play one more round, and then you will go into final scoring. So let me explain that. For final scoring, you will add up all the points on any cards that you've completed. You will also give yourself points for your large water droplets depending on the spaces that they are on in your greenhouse. And you will then gain half a point for any small water droplets that you have left, any flower petals that you have left, and any flower beds that you have left. After you've added all that up, the player with the highest points is the winner, and that is how you play Succulent. Okay, so here's Sam and I playing a 2-player version of Succulent. In fact, if you want to check out the playthrough video, you can click the I in the top right corner and check out that video. Right now we're going to share our thoughts on the game here. I'll go first. So Succulent is kind of one of those games that's Splendor-esque, Century, Eastern Wonders type game where you are trying to collect resources to trade in for cards that give you points. And I typically like those kind of games. They're easy to understand, but there are good choices involved. This game is a little bit unique in that it has a tile laying mechanism built into the game, that there's actually a board that you play on. It's not just cards, and I do like that. I like the components of this game. I like the theme of it. I'm not a green thumb by any means. Gardening is not my thing, but this is a game that I enjoy. I like the idea of trying to plant flower bushes and create kind of something that is beautiful, and so I do like that aspect of the game. How about you, Sam? What do you like about this game?
I thought the theme was interesting, and I thought the components of it were were nice too. The little flowers and the rain droplets, and the petals and everything like that. I like components of games, and I thought that it had interesting components. And Splendor is one of my favorite games. I like the card game of that, and so I could kind of see that a little bit in this as well.
Yeah, it's definitely got that vibe to it. Now, as far as this game goes, there are some knocks against it. It's kind of one of those games that you're playing it and you're not quite sure that you enjoy it or not. Or at least that's kind of how I felt about it. The choices that you have, they're all generally pretty good choices to take. You're always presented with ways to score points. There's not much of a challenge presented here. And so generally the challenge that you're faced with is trying to find what the best choice is. Not just trying to find a choice, if that makes sense. And so there can be times where you're playing this game and you kind of not necessarily get lost in it, but you kind of don't have a drive, I guess, if you will, to find ways to do better. Does that make sense to you, Sam?
Yeah, I think that it was not competitive enough for me. I felt like most of the time I was just paying attention to what I was doing. I was very focused on my things and not yours. Going back to Splendor a little bit and games like that, I can typically see what you're doing, kind of where your angle's at, what you're gonna try to do. But in this one, I couldn't. I wasn't, and it could be that the more I play it, that's something that I'll pay attention to more, but I found myself really playing the game next to you as opposed to with you, and then at the end, losing.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. This is one that you... there is some player interaction involved. I don't want you guys out there listening to this to think that there isn't any. I mean, you do have to think about where you're placing your flower bushes and where the other person is going to want to go and what project cards they're trying to complete. And so there is some player interaction, but probably not to the degree as some of the other games out there like this. And what you said earlier about the competitive aspect to it, I think that's probably a good way of putting it, that at least at a two-player game, this is kind of one of those games where it doesn't quite feel too competitive. The board didn't really feel tight there until the very end of the game. And like I said already, there were a lot of choices to make throughout the course of the game, so you never really felt like you were in dire straits to really make a move work out. Fear of failure type of thing. So that being said, I do enjoy this game. I want to try it out at higher player counts, at player counts of 3 and 4, to see how that kind of goes, because the board doesn't technically get any bigger at the higher player counts, and so I'm wondering if that won't constrict things a little bit more and make the choices less, and thereby making it be more competitive. So that'll have to be something that we try, and gameplay's yet to come. So let's get to our ratings on this game. For me, this game, I'm going to give it a solid 7. That's a 7 just based off of the two-player run-throughs that we've done on this game. There are a lot of things I do like about it, with some things pending on seeing how it goes with higher player counts. How about you, Sam? What rating do you give this game?
I'm going to give it a 6. I thought it was fairly easy to learn. I'm sure I could have paid more attention to different aspects of it and played better. But overall, it was fairly easy to play. It did not take a lot of time, which is always big in my book. But I just didn't find myself willing to give it the thought to be competitive enough.
Just a little bit of a ho-hum experience for you.
Yeah. So it's a 6. It's a fine game. I would play it again, but it's not going to be one that I'm going to be reaching for.
Sure.
If I was to ever reach for a game.
Now, that being said, is this one you would recommend for non-gamers?
I think it's if a gamer is slowly trying to introduce games to his non-gamer or his or her non-gamer family member or friend, I think it's one maybe down the road to reach for.
So if I understand what you're saying correctly there, then is that this probably isn't the first game you'd go to with
Yes.
non-gamers. This might be one that you follow up after you've played something with them. Maybe Splendor. I know we've mentioned that already.
Yeah, definitely. I think something like that, Splendor, gets your heart racing a little bit more than this one does, but it's a fun game. Just don't reach for it first.
Okay. All right. So I think maybe we give it 1 thumb up and not 2, just 1. All right, guys. So if you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and subscribe. If you think you might like this game, check out the link in the description below. You can buy it on Amazon. Otherwise, that's all for today. This has been Love to Hate.